So it's just been confirmed that Oshaki Foster versus Stephen Fulton Jr. for the WBC Super Featherweight World Title is going to be happening on November 25th. Now, this is a really interesting fight. Two really high-level boxers here. Both boxers who are established at world level, in my opinion. I wouldn't say Oshaki Foster's necessarily established at world level. He's had a number of tussle defenses now, and he's been in a number of 12-rounders for a while. So I would say he's fairly established at the top end of the division. Of course, you've got Stephen Fulton, who's started his career at Super Bantamweight and was a world champion at Super Bantamweight, and again went up to featherweight, became a world champion there as well, and had some really impressive performances at featherweight, particularly the two fights against, well, the second fight against Brandon Figueroa, and then also the fight against Castro. And Castro was a tricky operator, packed a punch and had good fundamentals, and actually even dropped Stephen Fulton in the fifth round. But ultimately, like I've said a million times on this channel before, one thing that all high-level boxers can do is weather the storm. And Stephen Fulton did that, and he continued to box very well in that fight. It was very close, it was competitive, but it was a split decision win for Stephen Fulton Jr. He then goes on to beat Brandon Figueroa in a fight that I really liked what I saw from Stephen Fulton Jr. in that fight. I thought he boxed really well, and in my opinion, sort of proved to me that he's probably one of the best guys at featherweight, right? Because I thought Brandon Figueroa was one of the best at featherweight, and if you're getting beaten like that by Stephen Fulton Jr., then Stephen Fulton Jr. is probably one of the best at featherweight, probably the best, right? But now he's moving up another weight class against Oshaki Foster, and to be fair, Oshaki Foster has been beaten before, and I think he's beatable, and ultimately I do actually think Stephen Fulton will win this fight, but Oshaki Foster is certainly no walkover. He's no easy customer. He's no easy fight. He's a tricky operator, and he's got a number of tools in his arsenal, and he's been here before. He's experienced it. Like I said, he's been at the weight for a while now. Been in these 12-rounders. Is the WBC Super Featherweight World Champion. He's a two-time champion now because he did lose it against Ruben. He had a weird last name in a decision, and then won it back in a rematch. And then since then, he hasn't fought. So you can look at it in a couple of different ways. You can see Stephen Fulton, who's only lost to Naoya Inoue, but the smaller guy. And you've got Oshaki Foster, who's 1-1 in his last two fights. Both decisions. But even in those two fights, there wasn't a ton separating the two boxers. I forget what the other guy's name was, but that's by the by. I say all that to say, this is going to be a really good fight in my opinion. I could see it being a chess match. But that being said, both guys come to fight. Both guys aren't the type to sit back and rest on their laurels. You know, Stephen Fulton Jr. will come to fight, and if he feels that he can push the pace, he will. And he will do what he has to do to win that fight, which is why I think Stephen Fulton Jr. probably wins this fight. Now, it could be a case of him flying too close to the sun, right? You can't just keep going up weight classes like this. But Stephen Fulton Jr., in my opinion, is a good enough boxer to do it. Only special boxers can go up 3 weight divisions and become world champions. You know, not every boxer that starts boxing is gonna do that. But Stephen Fulton Jr., I think he is a special boxer. His only loss was to Naoya Inoue. And I'm sure Naoya Inoue might be moving up again now. Now that Stephen Fulton's sort of out of the picture at those 2 weight divisions, Inoue might even want to move up again. But let's see what happens in that fight, man. I think, like I said, it's going to be super interesting. Both guys are high-level operators. I think Stephen Fulton's got 1 or 2 too many tricks up his sleeve, too many things in his arsenal, and I think he's going to get this one done and become a 3-weight world champion. But yeah, it's going to be a super interesting fight. I'd be curious to know what you guys think of Stephen Fulton Jr. and Oshaki Foster. Do you think Oshaki Foster can defend his title, or do you think Stephen Fulton can go on to become a 3-weight world champion? Be curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.